This lesson is a quick introduction of the next project, which I'm calling Grades Project. Um, in the Grades Project, you'll be required to write classes, um, use your knowledge of arrays and loops. I ask you to write a class called Grades. Grades is a class that represents a set of scores or a set of grades. Um, this class will have several constructors. It will also have several methods as described below. I know at this moment I'm just reading along, but we'll I'll explain as we go. You're going to write a tester class with a main that tests all your constructors, all the print methods that we're going to write, mean, median, mode methods along the way um, as you go. So do something, test it. Do something else, add something more, test it. One instance variable, it seems, at this point is all we have, and that instance variable will be an array of integers, which I'm calling scores. Multiple constructors. You need a null constructor. That's this one here. It does not receive any parameters. This constructor creates an array of scores or an array of grades, which we're calling scores here in R. And they'll be made up of 10 random test scores. I guess this should just say 10 random test scores, ranging from 60 to 100. That's our null constructor. The second constructor is almost the same, but we're giving it a count. So it will create count number of test scores ranging from 60 to 100 to 100. And the next one receives three integer values. One is how many scores we're going to have in the array. And the low and high is the range of scores we will have in the array. So if we send it 65 and 100, we'll get scores. It will produce scores from 65 through 100. And the last one, we would create an array and prior to the class and send it in to the constructor. And then scores would receive that array that we pass to it. So we have a null constructor, one where we send it how many grades we want to create between 60 and 100. A third constructor where we send it how many grades we want to create, and we tell it the range we want to create them in. And the last one, we create the array in the client class outside the grades class, and then pass it here. Methods that we are going to next have to write and test. And at this point, we should be writing something to test one of these along the way. Possibly in our tester, write a method to call that constructor. And then the next thing we might want to do is write this method in our grades class to print them out and test and see if that much is working. We want three print methods, one to print separated by commas, one to print separated by tabs, and one to print separated by spaces. We're also going to write a method called max that returns the maximum test score, and we're going to write a method called min that will return the minimum test score. So those are, in our methods here, we have print commas, print tabs, print spaces, and we also have these other two methods, which I did not write headings for. You can figure out what you need to do there. You need to return a value. You don't need to receive any values. You're going to print the max and the min based on the array of scores that are present in the grades object. We're also going to write a mean, a median, and a mode. The mean returns the numerical average. The median returns the middle score. Now, in order to return the middle score, we need to put the grades in order. They need to be sorted in order to return the middle score. The lesson prior to this showed you how to do that. We're also going to write a method called mode, and mode returns the scores that occur most often, the score that occurs most often. So if there are no repeated scores, we'll just return a -1. It's possible that there could be multiple modes. Um, at first, don't worry about that. If there's multiple modes, whatever, um, maybe something occurred 3 times and another score occurred 3 times as well, just return one of them, either the first one you found or the last one you found, depending on how you um, write your code. At some point down the road, you can handle that multiple modes as a bonus and return instead an array of ints that would hold the multiple modes. So let's say the score 75 occurred 5 times, and so did the score 93. You'd return an array that holds 75 and 93. More methods. You're going to write an array called score count that receives 2 ints and returns the number of scores between those 2 ints. For example, if you call score count with 80 and 89, it'll return the number of, it says 80s, it would return the number, it says 90s, it would return the number of 80s in the score array um, in your grades object. So it will look through the array in your grades object, counting how many scores were between 80 and 89 inclusive, and then return that number. So basically, it will return to us how many 80s there were. It will look like this, where we send it a lower bound and an upper bound. In our example here, it was 80 and 89. We're also to write a method called friendly mean. The friendly mean drops the low and the high scores and calculates the average. It's possible that that average is not better than the straight mean. So the friendly mean will then return the better of the two averages. That is, if the straight mean's average is better than the friendly mean, it will return the straight mean. If the friendly mean is better, it will return the friendly mean. Heading would look like that. We're also going to write a method called report. Report will print out a report based on all the scores in the grade object. It should nicely format and print out the scores, the mean, the median, the mode, the friendly mode, as well as the number of 90s, the number of 80s, the number of 70s, etc. You want to format that nicely. Tester class. Remember to write your tester class with a main that tests all your constructors, print methods, mean, median, mode, prints everything. It tests everything. But do this along the way as you're adding functions to the class. Test and make sure it works. It gives you a little instruction on starting with 10 integers and work your way through that. Okay. And this is just a little note about sorting. We haven't covered sorting yet, but I just covered it in the video that you can watch before this one, or you can watch it again, or if you haven't watched it, watch it now. And that's all self-explanatory in that other video. All right, good luck, and I'll talk to you soon.